going to bring on a gentleman, but I want to introduce you to him first. I met this young man, gosh, it's got to be close to 20 years ago. His firstborn wasn't even in the picture when I met him. He was just a young kid. He was a participant in one of our seminars, and he caught Bob's attention. Then, years later, when the company announced, what were we launching? The SGR program in a really big way. Bob brought him on board to help with that. I tell you, he worked his butt off, and I was so happy he stuck around. He made a decision that he would do whatever it took to work with Bob. And if you know anything about Bob, working with him was like that. You had to be all in. As a result, he became a good friend of Bob's and spent a lot of one-on-one time with Bob over the years, being mentored and really enjoying a tremendous relationship with him. He left the company for a while and ended up coming back for the opportunity of growth that would change his life forever. And it wasn't easy for him. He struggled a lot. He'd be the first to tell you his life was a shambles, but he never gave up on himself and showed up every day. He did exactly what Bob asked him to do, without excuse, without hesitation. He did it Bob's way. Today, he's reaping the rewards of that commitment to himself. DP Gates has been where you are. He's done what many of you want to do. He has taken responsibility for his life. He speaks from experience and has a really deep knowing on how to close the gap between where you find yourself now to where you want to go. Like Bob and Sandy and all of the staff that you'll be introduced to at the course of this training, they walk the talk and they study every day to get better. It's not a one-time deal. You've got to really take some time to invest in yourself. Without any further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to DP Gates.
Thank you so much, Gina. I appreciate that. You know, Gina and I go way back. I remember the first time I ever visited Toronto, and I was going to stay at Bob's house. I was in my mid-20s, and she picked me up from the airport. And I remember I lost my luggage. I never got the luggage until I got back to Phoenix. So I spent the entire 3 days staying at Bob's house, wearing his clothes, lunch, dinner, working out at the gym. We would go. He ran circles around me in the gym, by the way. I almost threw up, but it was a phenomenal first time staying at his house of many times I got to go stay there and, being mentoring under him, at that age. And we started to travel North America together and speak on stage. And I always tell people it was terrifying and exciting as life should be lived. And I don't know anybody, I was close with Bob. We had a great affinity for each other for sure, but I don't know anybody that was closer with Bob than Gina. She was his right-hand gal. He loved her so much and she loves him so much. And it is an honor and a blessing to have her here. This is really cool that she's hosting it. So I appreciate you, Gina, and I appreciate everybody that's here, that's going to spend the next 3 days with us. I'm going to give you some specific bullet points and concepts that you can follow, while Bob and Sandy are going to give you some great ideas to understand. But what I'd like you to start off at the beginning here is I want you to get intentional with your life over these next 3 days, starting today. I want you to get intentional about stretching yourself and getting uncomfortable and being a living embodiment of what we teach here. Okay. I want you to be intentional about creating the life that you desire than you really want. Even if your life is going well, it can always get better. And I don't want you to come here and gather information and listen. That's part of the process. But I want you to be super intentional and be seeking that one idea that you can take and you can implement into your life immediately. Okay. And these 3 days are all about shifting your paradigm. It's all about, changing how you perceive you. And Bob's going to teach on that today when I'm finished. And he's going to talk about, paradigms and how they control our lives. He's going to talk about how understanding is the key to freedom. And we must seek to understand. That is why you're here today. And hopefully you're here with us after the event ends to go even deeper. But when you understand what a paradigm is and how the mind works, you're on the pathway to freedom. You are creating your own economy. And that's why you're here these 3 days, to learn how to create your own economy. It starts here. Okay. And like I said, there's certain steps and processes you must learn and take on as far as taking on the road to shifting your paradigm. And I'm going to give you those, over these 3 days. I'll let Bob explain the mind as he does so well today. But let's take a deep dive into the steps and processes that I've put together from my experiences of working with Bob and other giants in this industry, and we'll get going here. So the first thing is, it's all about awareness. Okay, it's all about awareness, and that's the first step into shifting your paradigm and creating an abundant mindset. You have to become aware of your current beliefs and your current thought patterns. Do not ignore them. Okay, take time to reflect on your attitudes, your disciplines, your behaviors, and the results that you're getting in every area of your life. Okay. This sounds like an easy thing to do, but it's easy to do and it's easy not to do. So don't minimize the simplicity of it. Okay. Take time to reflect on these things. I had a great mentor one time say to me, "Do your behavior scream success?" I never forgot him saying that. It's such a powerful question to ask. Do my behaviors scream success? So ask yourself, what limiting beliefs and behaviors might be holding me back? This is where you begin, becoming aware of them. Now that you're aware of them, you can start to identify the limiting beliefs and behaviors. And you're going to do this later today. My top coach Melissa is going to give you an assignment. But once you're aware of the thought patterns, then you can identify the specific limiting beliefs that are, they're hindering your growth. They're absolutely hindering your growth. These could be beliefs about money. They could be beliefs about success or your self-worth, any aspect of your life. But now you become aware of them. All right. And you've identified them. And that leads to the next step, which is, starting to replace the limiting beliefs. Now you want to replace them, and you replace them with empowering beliefs. You create affirmations. All right. And you don't just create affirmations, you write them out. Writing causes thinking. Okay. You record yourself and you listen to them over and over and over again. Okay. And these affirmations, they have to reflect the new beliefs that you want to accept and adopt. Okay. And for example, I'll tell you this. Let's say you have a limiting belief about money. This one pops up a lot. You have some scarcity in your heart when it comes to money. Well, every time you feel that scarcity, I want you to replace it with an affirmation. Okay. And it can be anything that resonates with you. It could be something like, I am financially abundant. Money flows to me easily and effortlessly, and I absolutely love it. I have the best relationship with money. Money loves me. Okay. Money is attracted to me. Money is my servant and I am its master. And every time you have a limiting belief about money, you say that out loud with emotion. Okay. Or you say it in your mind if people are around. Okay. But get in the habit of rejecting the limiting belief and then reaffirming the new belief you want to create. That's going to lead to the next step, which is it's repetition and it's visualization. Okay. Repetition, I think we all can agree, is the key to shifting a paradigm and creating your own economy. Okay. But you have to make sure that you're repeating the affirmations daily to reinforce the new habits. You want to fall in love with repetition. Like people who are high achievers, high athletes, performers, world-class people, they have fallen in love with doing the redundancy of something over and over again. Your paradigm hates repetition. It's going to tell you, no. I've said this. I've said this before. I've done this before. I've seen this before. And anytime someone says that to me at an event, and I don't mean to sound harsher, because I was this person at one point, but anytime someone says that, and I'm sure one of you will, maybe you won't now because I've mentioned it, I know they're displaying their own level of ignorance, because they have to understand that repetition is the key. And you need to hear it over and over again. So I swear to you, all day long, I'm doing auto-suggestion, which is a suggestion to yourself from yourself. Okay. It's such a habit now. It's not like a morning routine. It's not a daily, it's just a daily thing that I'm doing all day long. I'm inundating my subconscious all day long with what I want. Earl Nightingale used to talk about it. He had a funny quote. He would say, people ask me all the time why I talk to myself. And he says, for two reasons. One, I like talking to an intelligent person. And two, I like having an intelligent conversation. And years ago, I heard that. I thought it was funny. Now, years later, I understand what he meant. His self-talk is through the roof, and if you want to get to creating your own economy, whatever that is, earning $1 million, $5 million, 10 million and beyond a year, whatever that number is for you, it's different for everybody. Your self-talk better be through the roof. It better be the best you've ever had it. You have to be very mindful of it. And Earl was very mindful of that. That's why he said that. So the repetition is key. And then the visualization techniques are going to be crucial too. You're going to have to imagine yourself living the life you desire. with your new beliefs, visualizing your success and feeling the emotions associated with it. Okay. Living in the end, as Neville Goddard talks about, you go to places of great abundance, go there physically. And if you can't go there physically, you go there in your mind. Okay. It's very important to do that. And then you can start, spending large amounts of money in your mind and tying that that feeling to the new paradigm that you're creating. Okay. And remind yourself. How do you remind yourself? Set a timer on your phone and remind yourself every couple hours to see and feel your goal, see and feel it, so you continue to inundate your subconscious with what you want. And I think that one of the most important things you can do, as far as the next step, is you surround yourself with the right people. And in this day and age, you can pay to surround yourself with the right people. You really can. And I said this at the last event. I said, consciousness is contagious. Consciousness is contagious. You can be around a toxic individual that brings you down, or you can be around somebody who lights you up and takes you to the next level. So you have to be very mindful of your consciousness and who else's energy and consciousness you're around. You want to associate with people who have the mindset and the belief that you want to adopt. So surrounding yourself with positive people, positive influences, it's going to reinforce the paradigm, the new paradigm, the new conditioning you want. All right. So who are you surrounding yourself with right now? Outside of this environment, outside of this event, right? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Your environment is your destiny. Okay. So surround yourself with greatness, because some of it's bound to rub off. Bob used to say that. I love that line. And you have to get around people who have a different level of awareness and understanding than you, and get into the spirit of their energy, right? And it's just different when you get around people who are world-class, people who are elite, people who know this material better than 99% of people out there. The energy is different. The conversations are different, and you want to get around that, and then you want to get finely tuned mentorship and coaching. You don't just want to get around the positive people. You want to get around people who can give you specialized knowledge, intelligently directed, in the proper environment. That is a critical point in this whole process. Okay. And then you have to be patient. You got to be patient, but persistent. Okay. You have to have urgency, but in a calm, confident manner. And please do not dig up any spiritual seeds you have planted. Remember, an idea is a spiritual seed. Okay. An idea is a spiritual seed. So when you plant the seed, all you have to do is hold the image and the feeling of having it, continue to take, inspired action, which I'm going to talk about next, and let God do the work. Let the universe manifest it. Okay. Jim Rohn used to say, plant the seed and let God grow the tree. Let him do the hard work, but changing deep-rooted beliefs, it can take time. Changing a paradigm can take time. So if it does, you're going to have that persistent piece. So be patient with yourself and stay committed to the process, even when you're facing challenges, especially when you're facing challenges or setbacks, or you're not seeing the fruits of your labor. Every time you question it or you get frustrated, you're digging back the seed. And then you have to go back and plant it. So don't doubt anything. Don't doubt your doubts, doubt your doubts, but trust the process through the whole thing. Okay. Trust the process and doubt your doubts. But the last thing, I just said it, and this is the most important thing, you have to take inspired action. And that's why I said at the beginning, you're not here just to gather information and be entertained. You're here to take inspired action on one idea. One idea that inspires you, and you move. Okay. And we'll talk a lot about that on day 3, but you don't want to settle. You don't want to get comfortable. You don't want to question yourself. You want to make sure your self-talk is amazing, because to shift your beliefs, you have to take action that is aligned with the new mindset and the new image you're holding in your mind, the image maker. Okay. So your actions have to reflect the new paradigm that you're creating. And because the old conditioning is outdated, but it wants to stay there, and it wants to stay in control. So you have to live from the new conditioning. Otherwise, it's a lie. And when you lie to yourself enough, you start to chip away at your image, this new image you're attempting to create and you're wanting to create. And your image is the foundation of your results. So you want a strong, beautiful, healthy, amazing image. Okay. Just remember that shifting a paradigm is a continuous process. Okay. You're always going to be shifting paradigms. So the goal is just to align your beliefs with the desired outcomes. All right. Create those empowering affirmations, create those empowering thoughts, reject anything else that is not in harmonious vibration with what you want, and you'll create more fulfillment in your life. That is it, period. And I think one last thing, I think, before we hand it off to Bob, I think it all comes down to one thing. And I've been talking about this probably since June or July when we started doing our events again. It comes down to focus. Okay. Focus is a superpower, and it's a mental muscle that you can develop. It's a mental muscle you can develop. But if you don't have focus towards what you desire, you're going to be settling in your life. You will settle and you will lose, because focus is putting your power and your attention into something. Okay. And hopefully it's something you want, not something you don't want. But you have to ask, every one of you has to ask yourself this today: where is my focus? Is it on BS outside of me, or is it right here on what I want? Because nothing can distract you but one thing: your goal. Okay. Your goal is a distraction from all the other distractions. That's what it is. It's a distraction from all your other distractions. So if you let your mind wander, if you shrink or you settle, you will never attract what you want, because you attract what you're in resonance with. That is the law of attraction. Distraction is the enemy of attraction. Okay. I'll tell you a story. I created a certain type of focus and expectation years ago. It was the last couple months of the year, and like it is right now. And I made this committed decision that I was willing to give up everything unnecessary to achieve what was necessary. So ask yourself that: what do I need to give up right now to create more focus in my life? Is it excuses? Is it a relationship? Are you drinking too much? Are you not working out enough? Are you pointing fingers? Do you have a bad attitude? Are you talking down to yourself? You have 60 days or so left in 2023. Okay. And that is what you have to implement. It's the law of sacrifice. And the law of sacrifice states that you're giving up something of a lesser nature for the attainment of something of a greater nature. Okay. And that's what I did. I really willed myself there. I said, I'm going to do this, and I don't think you can will yourself forever, because you'll get burnt out. But by willing myself there for 2 or 3 months, I created this paradigm and an expectation that's lasted ever since. Like it's a mindset of abundance and prosperity. So I willed my way to a focus that I still have today that's automatic now. And I drowned out anything or anyone that distracted or threatened that focus. And that's what champions do. Champions concentrate on the attainment of a singular purpose with an intensity that it's like it borders an obsession. It's a healthy obsession, a magnificent obsession. And once the goal's set, they put these mental blinders on, and then they move forward with persistence and tenacity. That's what they do. And it's interesting because we're coming up on the last couple months of the year, right? And you can do that. You have 60 days, just like I did. I had those 60 days, and it's 60 days to finish the race, or 60 days to slow down, and today is day one for you. And I think it's important you think about this, because most people right now are going to slow down, but winners don't do that. They speed up. Okay. They speed up their expectation. They speed up their belief. They double down on their mentorship. Everyone should be getting mentorship with us after this event. Like hands down, you should. Don't wait till January like the masses do. I truly believe momentum is earned one way or the other. And 2024 momentum is earned right now. It's not earned in 2024. All right. You're already behind if you're not setting your goals for 2024. And I think world-class performers know that. They create such an intense level of concentration. So they can overcome challenges, because they're going to have adversities, and they're going to have to overcome those to achieve their goal. Their goal is the last thing they think about before they fall asleep. It's the first thing that hits them when they wake up. Like that, what an expectation that is to have for your life. You want to wake up every day thinking of winning. You want to go to bed dreaming of winning. That's a great life to be living. And, someone's probably asking, how the hell do you do that? Well, I'll tell you, this is how I do it. And this is how I think people who create things of great significance do it. You want to create emotional motivators. Okay. Top level people, they're motivated intrinsically by their dreams, by their desires, by their passions. Their desires through the roof. Their desire drives them in everything they're doing, because external motivation, which is what we're giving you right now to these 3 days, it's short-lived. It doesn't last. Internal motivation is it's almost impossible to exhaust until you achieve your goal, because something bigger than you is driving you. Like these motivational pep talks are great, but they're short-lived. All right. They lack what the emotional motivators generate. So what is your emotional motivator? For me, it's my kids, it's freedom, it's experiences, it's fulfillment. Like these are the core values that I live by every single day. They drive me. They are my fuel. They are my internal motivators. They are my internal drivers. Okay. The secret to motivating, yourself and to others is discovering what you're going to fight for. When the things get tough, what are your core values? What are your standards? What are you fighting for every day? Move from the logic-based motivators and step into emotional-based motivators. All right. Doing this is going to allow you to not allow the outside to distract you. You're going to hold your truth regardless of what's going on. Remember what I said, consciousness is contagious. That's a powerful thing to understand. So be mindful of, where you are and where you're putting your focus and who you're surrounded by. Okay. Now, I hope all this helped. I went through that pretty quickly, but we have people taking notes for you guys, and I'm sure you can go back and go over all this. But what I'd like to do is bring Bob on now, and we selected a great clip of him. It's a really, I've seen him teach this a lot of times, and I will listen to it over and over again a million more times. And he's going to talk to you about understanding what a paradigm is. All the concepts and the stuff I gave you today, it's just stuff to help you learn how to shift your paradigm. He's going to really teach you what a paradigm is, okay, and how the mind works. And that's what I said at the beginning. Like when you understand these things, you're on the pathway to creating your own economy. And Bob changed my life because he introduced me into so many concepts and ideas that I just accepted. And Leland Vanderwall, who was one of his great mentors in his life, gave him this concept. And he says it was the most powerful concept that he had ever learned. And it will help you understand the mind. It will help you work in harmony with the laws that govern the universe. And it is an easy concept to understand because we can teach it to children. I remember Bob was in town in Scottsdale when I have an 18-year-old son. I have 3 boys. He was 7 years old at the time. And Bob was at his hotel and he invited me up to a suite with my son. And I remember him teaching this concept to my son right there in the suite. And then he had my son teach it back to him. So he internalized it. And he showed how easy it was to understand this concept. And I know it was filmed by the company. I wonder if we could find that. Gina, maybe you could find that. But I'm going to pass it over to Bob now with this incredible teaching segment. And then I'm going to come back to introduce 2 special guests, 2 of my top coaches that are going to recap day 1 and bring us in for a landing. So over to you, Bob.
What we're going to talk about is paradigms. And I don't know if you know what a paradigm is. If you had asked me 60 years ago what a paradigm was, I certainly couldn't have told you. In fact, if you had asked me 50 years ago, I couldn't have told you. Paradigm is, it's sort of a relatively new word in the mind of the general public. And a lot of people wouldn't even know what it is. But a paradigm is a very important idea, and it stops us from living the life that we really want to live in more cases than not. There is a man that played an enormous role in my life. And you can take that down and we'll throw it back up in a few minutes. 60 years ago, I had a gentleman sit down with me, not this one, you can take that down, Scott, please. And his name was Ray Stanford. And he gave me this book. And he said, Bob, if you will do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Now, I would imagine that there's someone in our audience right now that may be in about the same spot I was in when he sat down with me. I had 2 months high school formal education. I had virtually no business experience. I worked in factories. I'd been in the Navy, working at dead-end jobs that weren't going anywhere. And I was 26 years old, but I was in a bad spot. And he sat down with me and he said, Bob, he said, you can live whatever way you want. And he said, you can do the things you want. Well, he asked me if I've ever read anything, and I said, no, I didn't read. Now, today, I've got a beautiful library here in the studio. I have another one in my home. But he introduced me to this book. Now, you'll see I've got elastics around it because the book is literally falling apart. And up until that time, if I told you I'd do something, the odds are pretty good I wouldn't do it. I had never kept my word on anything. I mean, I was a lost soul. But he said to me, he said, if you'll read this every day, do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Well, it's like I said, I didn't believe that. I mean, how could I believe it? You could have anything you want. I was earning $4,000 a year, and I owed $6,000. I was in bad shape. I was a lost individual. And so, I don't know why, but I decided to do exactly what he told me. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you will do exactly what I tell you this week, I guarantee a year from now, you're going to need a telescope to look back and see where you were right now. That's how much your life can change. And I don't even care how well you're doing. Because I've gone into some of the largest companies in the world and watched their sales go up by hundreds of millions of dollars when I teach them what we're going to just take a look at this week. And, you know, as I started to study this, my life started to change. Now, one of the first things I did was one of the first things he told me. He said, I want you to decide exactly what you want. I want you to write it on a card and carry it in your pocket. And that's exactly what I did. And I have a card. I've got it in a little plastic sleeve, and I carry it in my pocket. And what I've got on here is my goal. This is what I'm working towards. And he said, if you'll carry that in your pocket, he said, you're going to end up with it in your life. Now, I wrote on the card I wanted to have $25,000. That would be probably like you writing you want $1 billion. I mean, it was just so far out of reach. And he said, just keep reading it. And he said, do you believe it? And I said, no, I don't believe it. But I believed he believed it. And so he said, keep reading it. So I decided I would do that. And I did. Do you know that in a relatively short period of time, I had the $25,000, and I did it by cleaning floors. You see, he told me, he said, Bob, you got to be prepared to do anything honest to earn money. And he said, once you start earning it, if you study it, you'll learn how to earn money. And when you learn how to earn money, it's a whole different life. And he says, that's what I'm going to teach you. And so I did. And I was earning over $1 million a year. I started cleaning floors. I started cleaning one office. In less than 5 years, I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. And I had done something to my mind. I didn't know what I had done, but man, I was winning in a big way. And I was just throwing the money all over the place because I knew where to get it. And I would go down to the Playboy Club I was on Park Lane, right beside the London Hilton. If you're in London, you'll know where that is. And I would go in there and I'd play roulette. And I didn't care if I lost. And because I didn't care if I lost, I usually won. Well, one day I thought, I'm being very irresponsible. And I really was. And I thought, how did this happen to me? You see, I didn't even know how it all happened because it happened so fast. And I couldn't even find anybody who could tell me. I had been raised to believe that if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. I knew I wasn't that smart, but I was earning a lot of money. So I knew that wasn't right. I was raised to believe if you don't go to school, you'll never get a good job. I didn't have a good job. I owned the whole company. I couldn't figure it out. Do you know it took me 9.5 years? Well, 9.5 years later, I met this man that I showed you. His name, Leland Valvanderwall. He changed my life completely. He introduced me to a concept I'm going to introduce you to. And when he did that, it was like everything I'd been studying. I'd been studying a lot of information, but I'd study this book. I'd give this book to people, and they didn't change. And what he did, he brought everything together for me in a relatively short period of time. Now, here's a couple of things he told me, if you'll go back screen, Scott. And he said, Bob, he pointed out, he said, you are a unique individual. And he said, so am I. So is everybody else. And he said, you can literally create your own economy. You can do that. And he said, the only thing standing between you and what you want is yourself. It's all about the mind, Bob. He said, it's about your marvelous mind. Then he started, thanks God, then he started to talk to me about the mind. And he said, you know, it's a strange thing, Bob, when we get talking about the mind, nobody's ever seen the mind. They have never seen the mind. Now, keep in mind that I was a very uneducated person. When you talk about the mind, I mean, I would think of psychiatrists, psychologists, behavioral scientists. No, he said, you want to get rid of those ideas. He said, the way I'm going to explain it to you is the way it was explained to me. And he said, we can show children how the mind functions. And he said, I'm going to show you something here that's rather interesting. And he said, Bob, understanding the mind and working in harmony with the laws governing the mind is essential if you really want to win in life. And then he started to tell me what a paradigm was. And he said, a paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And he started to talk about that. He said, it's a program in your subconscious mind that controls your behavior. And the paradigm has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior, and almost all of our behavior is habitual. Now I said, I want you to think about this, and I want you to think about it. We get out of bed in the morning, and away we go, we move into a routine. And if you're living with someone else, you don't mess around with their routine because you just don't do that. We've all got a routine, and we go into a routine. And we do that day after day, and most people do it for their whole life. Earl Nightingale used to say, most people tiptoe through life hoping they make it safely to death. It's rather an interesting concept. And the paradigm is the program in your subconscious mind. Now, he said, here's the crazy part about it, Bob. The people that write this program, the ones that wrote the code for the program, they really didn't know what they were doing. Think of this for a moment. I've got a computer here. It's in a phone. I've got another computer right in front of me, and then here I've got a pad. And these are computers. Now, there's people write programs for these computers. They write code. And they really know what they're doing, and they're very, very good. And the program for me to put the slides up here, that's a program. It's a PowerPoint program. And things work like a charm. Well, the people that are writing the code for them are very well educated and really understand what they're doing. But he said the people that are writing the program for the code that runs your life, they didn't know what they were doing. Now, most people don't even know that they have a program. Think of this for a moment. How do you account for a person going to the very best schools in the world, getting prestigious degrees, then spend the rest of their life losing? How do you account for that? How do you account for the fact that a person will come up with degrees that'll run right off the end of a business card and maybe not able to get a half-decent job? Very insecure. How do you account for that? Well, I'm going to tell you how. There's a part of your mind that gathers information. There's a part of your mind when you read the book, you store the information in that part of your mind. But that part of your mind is not the part that controls the behavior of this thing you're living in. Your body is an instrument of your mind. It is an instrument of your mind. And it's your body that moves into action and produces the results you're getting. Your income, money, is a result. It's an income. The money you earn is always going to be controlled by the paradigm. One of the first things I ask people when if they come to work with me is, what's the most they've ever earned in a year? Now, I don't really care what the answer is, but I want to know what the answer is. And when I find out what the answer is, I know where their program is. And I know that they want to earn more money, and I want them to earn more money because I want their productivity to go up. And by showing them how to raise the productivity, I'm showing them how to earn more money. But I teach them something about money. You see, the paradigm controls your income. If you're struggling, trying to get your income to grow, don't buy into the fact that you've got to go and take another course in school, that you've got to learn this, you've got to learn that. You've got to understand how your paradigm works. The paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior, and almost all of our behavior is habitual. Okay? So stay with me here for a moment. Let's take a look at the areas of your life the paradigm controls. The paradigm controls your perception. Our good friend Wayne Dyer, God bless him, he's gone now, but He used to put it very well. He says, when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. Isn't that interesting? When you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. That's perception. When you alter your perception, your whole world changes. Your paradigm controls your perception. Your paradigm controls how you look at things. That is very, very important. Your paradigm controls your use of time. Do you know that everybody gets exactly the same amount of time? You'll hear people talking about time management programs. I remember going to breakfast with Earl Nightingale one morning, and he had the most organized life of anyone I'd ever seen. He was a very cool guy. I never saw him rushing. I never saw anybody who got so much done in a short period of time as he did. And I asked him at breakfast this morning, I said, Earl, how did you learn to master time management? He looked at me and said, what the hell are you talking about? He said, I don't master time management. Nobody masters time management. He said, time can't be managed. He said, I merely manage activities. He said, I carry a card here in my pocket, and I write what I want on that card, and when I wake up tomorrow, I do it. He says, time can't be managed. Everybody gets exactly the same amount of your time. The hobo that's sleeping on a park bench has the same amount of time as the most productive person in the world. It's what we do with our time that makes the difference. Well, the paradigm controls what you do with your time. Your paradigm controls your creativity. It controls your creativity. Some people say they're not creative. Everybody's creative. You were created in God's image. That makes you a creative being. And we'll talk more about that at another time. Your creativity probably is going to have a lot to do with your effectiveness. And your effectiveness has to do with your productivity. Now, there's something that stops almost everyone when they come to it, and that's logic. They'll say, well, you can't do that. That's just illogical. Do you know something? The Wright brothers were illogical. Edison was illogical. Ed Hillary was illogical. Nobody had ever been to the top of a mountain. Nobody had ever made an incandescent light. Nobody ever got a plane off the ground. These people were totally illogical, but they introduced us to a new kingdom. They did not let logic stop them. And here's the capper. Your ability to earn money. That's controlled by your paradigm. Now, it's almost as if we have a box around these areas. And whenever we go to change anything in those areas, how we're going to change our time, how we're going to earn more money, we're going to be more productive, it's like we hit the wall and bounce back. Now look at this. When you make a decision that you're going to change the paradigm, the walls come down. Now, it doesn't mean you change anything, but the walls come down, so when you go to move, you're not stopped by the paradigm. Now get this. I want you to imagine how your entire life would change as you begin improving any or all of these areas of your life. Imagine changing any or all of these areas of your life, how much your life would change. The change would be huge. And get this, the change would be permanent. You see, I mentioned to you that I picked this up when I was 26. But I've been reading this every day now since I was 26. They said, well, how do you read? I just open it wherever I open it, and I read for a little bit. And I've been doing that now for 60 years. The change can be huge. Now, this is what Val Vanderwall really got me to see. And he says, when your paradigm shifts, everything shifts. Can you imagine if you just changed your habitual behavior insofar as your use of time is concerned? Do you know if you just studied for 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day, get up an hour early. That's where I study, early in the morning. Study for 1 hour a day. Do you know that's nine 40-hour weeks in a period of a year? And that's concentrated study. Can you imagine if you studied the mind for 1 hour a day? That's 9 40-hour weeks in a year. The change would be enormous. Have you any idea how much your income would change if you just worked on changing your time? Your income would skyrocket. You see, I've earned millions of dollars in my life. I maintain I can show anybody how to earn $1 million. It's not even that much. I can show anyone how to change anything. It's all in the mind, and it's you that's got to change. I can't change you, but you can change you, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, this is what Vanderwall showed me. Val Vanderwall said, Bob, I want you to look at the mind and paradigms. In fact, I want you to look at your mind and your paradigms. Then he introduced me to a man, and when he introduced me to this man, my whole life took another enormous shift. He said to Dr. Thurman Fleet, was from San Antonio, Texas. He was very involved in the healing arts, and he was very involved in holistic health. Now, if you've seen me do this before, ask yourself this. I wonder how many times Bob's seen himself do it. You cannot go over this concept too often. What I'm going to show you here is the most valuable idea I have ever learned. Now, he said, no one's ever seen the mind. And he said, it's too bad, because when we go for help with doctors now, the doctor treats the body. What we've got to understand is the doctor's treating a symptom, not treating the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem's in the mind. Pay attention to what I'm saying. And he said, nobody's ever seen the mind, so I'm going to draw a picture of the mind. And there's what he drew. This is such a magnificent concept. And then he took and he broke that big circle into two parts. And he said, that's the top half is the conscious mind, and that's the subconscious mind. Then he said, the little circle in the bottom, Bob, he said, that represents the body. Now, the mind controls the body. Your body is like a dumb terminal. It is like a dumb terminal. This is, without question, the most valuable idea I've ever learned. In all 86 years that I've been living, I've never learned a more valuable idea. And it's what's going on in the mind that controls your body. It's what's going on in the subconscious mind that controls your body. I'm going to show you something real fast about the mind. Look here. The conscious mind, the subconscious, and the body. Now, the conscious mind is your thinking mind. Do you know that if you study all the great leaders who have ever lived, every one of them without exception are going to be quick to tell you that you become what you think about. Go right back in ancient history, as far back as you can go, every one of them tell us we become what we think about. Play with that for a little while. Thinking is the highest function we're capable of. That's our educated mind. This is where all the books are piled. Now, the subconscious is quite different. You see, the conscious mind is the intellectual mind. The subconscious is the emotional mind. Now, the conscious mind can think, therefore, it can choose. You can choose whatever you want. Viktor Frankl, who spent the war years in a German concentration camp, he said while he was in that camp, he said that regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. You have the ability to choose your own thoughts. You can accept or reject all the negativity that's going on the TV, newspapers today. You can reject all that. That doesn't mean that it's going to go away, but it'll go away for you. You don't have to give your conscious attention to a lot of stuff that isn't going to do you any good. The conscious mind can accept or reject. Now, when it lets it go, you have the ability to originate anything you want. You're a creative being. Now, your subconscious mind doesn't have any of those abilities. You see, your subconscious mind is amoral. It's like the earth. It doesn't care what you plant. It cannot reject what you plant. It's totally subjective. Now, get this. This is a very important point. You should maybe write this down so you won't forget it when writing causes thinking. Your subconscious mind cannot determine the difference between that which is real and that which is imagined. When you imagine something, it's every bit as real as if it was there in your physical world. So when you build a picture of your goal in your conscious mind and you impress it upon your subconscious accepts it as real. Now, those points that I've just taught you, right there, I've explained, they're the most important points in the mind you'll ever hear. But I'm going to take, and I'm going to set those down for a moment, and I'm going to now apply them. So let's take a look here. This is you today. What did we say about the conscious mind? We said the conscious mind could think. So when all this information comes at you, you can say, get out of here. I'm not going to listen to it. Social media, other people, Netflix, podcasts. You can just say, get out of here. I'm not accepting any of that stuff. But you know something? A good 90-some% of the population don't do that. That is because they leave their mind wide open and they're not thinking. And their subconscious is wide open. What did we say about the subconscious? It had no ability to reject. Why? Well, this is where the paradigm is. Why would people leave their mind wide open? Because they've been programmed to do that. Their mind is wide open, and all that negativity is going right into it. Now let's close this for a moment, and I'm going to show you how the paradigm was started. Here's you as an infant. This is you as an infant. The conscious faculties have not developed. Everything that is going on around the child goes right into the child's subconscious mind. And everything that's going on around the child is through repetition. It just dumps into the subconscious mind. The conversation, the talk about money. I was born during the Great Depression. I grew up during the Second World War. It was always hard times. Everything was rationed. It was always bad times, bad times. That's all that was programmed into our mind. Everybody believed it. That's how everybody was living, almost everybody. There's a small group of very prosperous individuals, and it doesn't matter what's going on in the economy, they're going to win. Now take a look at that for a moment. That's how the paradigm is formed. You see, the baby's taught what kind of food to like. That controls what language the baby speaks. If a baby's in a home that's bilingual, the baby's going to grow up speaking two languages. I have a great-granddaughter, and that little girl is learning both English and Latvian because her father is Latvian, and the parents speak that language all the time, and the father can speak it, doesn't speak it that much, but around the little girl, that's what they're doing, and she's going to grow up bilingual. I had an associate over in Kuala Lumpur, had a little boy, and at 4 years old, that child could speak 4 different languages. They thought nothing of this. This is very common in parts of the world. That is because when a baby's born, they have no ability to reject information. Remember we said the subconscious, it can only accept. It cannot reject. And whatever's pounded in there over and over and over again, it sticks. And that's how the paradigm's formed. And look at here. Here it is, 20, 30, 50, 60 years later. The paradigm's still controlling them. It's wild when you think about this. It really is. Now look here for a moment. Einstein said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Look here. We talked about perception. Do you know that perception is an intellectual factor? I'm going to show you a number of these. Memory. Do you know there's no such thing as a bad memory? Everybody has a perfect memory. A perfect memory. Do you know that all the other little creatures on the planet are completely at home in their environment? All the little creatures running around outside are completely at home in their environment. They blend in. They operate by instinct, which is perfect. We had instinct removed and these higher faculties put in their place. We have the ability to change our perception. We have a marvelous mind. We can memorize. Do you know that we had a man over into a matrix program we were running, and he came from Saudi Arabia, Abdullah. He was a psychiatrist. He was teaching people over there to memorize the Quran. Jerry Lucas, pro basketball player, retired. He was teaching people out in San Francisco to memorize the Bible. There's no such thing as a bad memory. Everybody has a perfect memory. Most people, it's just weak. Now look at this for a moment. Here we go. We also have an imagination. The imagination is the most marvelous tool we've got. It's the most magnificent tool we've got. Our imagination will take us anywhere we want to go. Anywhere we want to go. It's with our imagination that everything you see around you was created first. The furniture around you, everything. This phone, it was created in somebody's imagination first. And that's the way things work. Then you have something called reason. Now, the reason is our ability to think. It's with the reasoning factor that we think. It's so powerful, and we have intuition. Now, if I were to walk by you, I could tell you what you're like. Because your body is a molecular structure. It's a mass of energy and a very high speed of vibration. Your body is a mass of energy that vibrates. If we put your body in front of an infrared television camera in a completely dark room, you'd see your body as a glistening, radiating, gleaming form. Well, do you know you have an intuitive factor that can pick that energy up and read it? You can translate it in your mind. That's an intuitive factor. And last but not least, we have the will. Do you know, when President John Kennedy asked Dr. Wernher von Braun what it would take to build a rocket that'll carry a man to the moon, von Braun said the will to do it. He answered him in 10 seconds. What would it take to build a rocket that'll carry a person to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth? Von Braun said the will to do it. See, the will is a mental faculty that gives you the ability to hold one idea on the screen of the mind to exclusion of all outside distractions. Now, it's a marvelous tool, and most people don't even know they've got it. So watch here for a moment. There's the mind, and there's the body, okay? Now we'll take and we'll divide it in two parts, and we say there's the conscious mind, and there's the subconscious mind. Now the conscious mind deals with the outside world through sensory factors. You can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And those sensory factors are hooked up like antennae to our conscious mind. And we use those to get in touch with our outside world. Most people use those to control their life. They let something that's going outside of them determine which way they're going to go. Now think of this for a moment. The conscious mind is also your intellectual mind. All those higher faculties that I just showed you, they're used to change what's going on in the emotional mind. And where's the paradigm? It's in the emotional mind. And as you change the emotional mind, you're changing the vibration you're in. As you change the vibration, you're changing what you attract to yourself. Now, the intellectual factors, well, we just covered them. Let's look at them again. Our perception, the will, imagination, memory, intuition, and last but not least, reason. Now, those faculties we've never been taught how to use them. That's where all the power lies. That's what separates us from all of the rest of the animal kingdom. See, where they're always at home in their environment, we're totally disoriented in our environment. We're disoriented in our environment because we've been given the ability to create our own environment. And this is why most people's lives are really in a confused state. They have never been taught how to use those higher faculties. And because they haven't been taught how to use them, they don't know how to use them. And it's usually its higher faculties that we deal with our inside world. There's only two sources of reference you can go to find out anything about yourself. One's science and the other's theology. There isn't anywhere else you can go. That's it. And so what we want to do is we want to learn how to use those. Now think of this. They are all resident in your conscious mind. As you start to learn how to use these, you're going to learn how to change your paradigm, because it's those faculties that cause the paradigm, say, get out of here, and it'll leave town. Your paradigm's controlling your life. It's literally controlling your life. It controls your income. It controls your imagination. It controls everything that you're doing. The paradigm. And it's the paradigm that we want to get out of here. Okay? You want to build a new paradigm. And when you build a new paradigm, your whole life changes.
I've heard Bob teach that a million times, and I will listen to Bob teach that a million more until my awareness is where it needs to be. There's always another level of awareness, and there's always someone more aware than you, so you can always continue to learn. So what a beautiful teaching segment. You know, the truth always resonates, and when Bob speaks, it's just the truth. Unbelievable. Great, great work. So what we'd like to do to take it in for a landing is I'm going to introduce you to two of my top coaches with our team here at Proctor Gallagher. One needs no introduction. The other one is fairly new. And the one who's fairly new, and she's just rocking it, her name is Madison. Madison is new to the team, however, not new to personal development. You know, she loves this stuff, and she has earned the right to be here today. And I'm super excited to hear what she has to say on everything. And the other one who needs no introduction is Melissa Posey, who is one of my favorite people and my top coach and my business partner and my dear friend. And her daughter both work here and work closely alongside with me every single day. And I love waking up in anticipation to what we're going to create together every single day. So ladies, take it away. Give us a great recap. Looking forward to hearing everything you have to say.
Thank you so much, DP. Hello and welcome, everyone. It's so great to be here with you. And as DP said, I am Melissa Posey, the Director of Sales here at Proctor Gallagher. What an amazing, impactful lesson we had from Bob this morning. And DP, your training, outstanding. I took a ton of notes. I bet you did as well, Madison.
Yeah.
So many notes. Yeah. So much great information. Of course, I'll be going back and re-listening. And that is something that is so important here, guys, to have the repetition and be going through this material, because I know that I'm going to pick up something as I continually listen, even though I've heard Bob teach about paradigms hundreds, probably even thousands of times. So again, it is great to be here with you. And I am so happy and grateful to be here today with Madison. Madison is one of our top coaches here at Proctor Gallagher. And welcome, Madison. We're going to be doing the recap today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about this. I love the whole paradigm topic.
Well, as we know, the results are not going to change until the paradigm changes. Like, this is the foundation. That's why it's necessary. If you want to change your life, change your results, like, we've really got to understand this. So that's what you and I are going to be diving deep into today. So Madison, here's what I'd like to do first. If you would, like, I would love to hear, and I've heard your story before, but it's a great story of, how you got here to Proctor Gallagher. But for those people that, may not know of you, I would love for you to share your story. And I bet that some of the training that we heard today from Bob and DP is going to shine through in your story. But I'll let you start us off and take it away.
Yeah. So my dream, my whole life, my paradigm, I guess you could say, was set on Wall Street, and went to college for finance, got to Wall Street, and I realized, this isn't really what I want. Took a risk and decided to try my hand at an e-commerce business. And fortunately that didn't work. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to follow my dream. And I got into stand-up comedy, which I absolutely loved. But what I didn't realize was happening, even though I felt aligned with my purpose, was that my mind was going more into scarcity. And I just would have little successes along the way, but I felt like I was always struggling. Things wouldn't click, and I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't realize that my paradigm was so stuck in this loop of there's never enough. It's hard to be successful. It's hard to make money, and just this backwards thinking, to where I would work so hard, but I wasn't seeing the results because my paradigm was completely not matching what I actually wanted. So the universe would give me just enough to get by, and then it would just disappear. So it wasn't until I really decided to, I'd read self-help books, and I had done a bunch of, listening to podcasts and videos, but it wasn't clicking until I decided to really go into a coaching program. And from there, I was able to shift my paradigm, and opportunities started to come in from all different directions. Things I didn't even think about doing within the entertainment world. I've written a self-help book that has changed millions of people's lives. I have a great podcast, and I'm now a coach at Proctor Gallagher. So I'm completely aligned with my purpose, my vision, and my goals of helping people live their best lives, because none of us need to struggle. It's all in our paradigm. And it's just an amazing, amazing thing. I'm so excited to be talking about this.
Well, that's right. It doesn't have to be harder. Most people, they are working hard. And you just mentioned that. What Bob teaches is how to work smarter. Now, that all comes to do with the mind, like creating your own economy. The topic for the next several days, it all starts in the mind. So like you said, when the paradigm shifts and changes, that's when everything in our world changes.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's important for people to know, you evolve and change as a person throughout your whole life. So when you update your paradigm's going to have to evolve too. So I think it's important that people understand, you're always kind of upgrading your paradigm to match your goals, because your goals change and what you want in life. So it's always kind of an almost like an upgrade to your computer. can't have your computer system operating too long. It's just going to stop working. So it's kind of like updating that paradigm to match those goals.
So something that you just said, Madison, you mentioned mentorship and, taking your first coaching program. Just talk a little bit, if you would, about the importance of having a mentor. When you have the guidance, the direction. Bob Proctor, he was in this industry for 61 years. He put together the best material. He put together the system that helps us, if we are open to it, if we want to change our lives, coachable, which I know, if you've tuned in today, that's you. Talk about, if you would, the importance of having a mentorship, having a program, to follow with the best material, and the environment, right? Having that environment is huge as well.
No, absolutely. Because the thing is, like, when you're just listening to podcasts or you're reading books or watching YouTube videos, you're really just gathering the information. And that's what I was doing for years, and nothing was changing. It wasn't until I really went into a coaching program that I was starting to learn how to actually implement and make those massive changes and shifts into my life. And also, coaching is so important because it kind of holds you accountable. Sometimes people get really excited about something and then life gets busy and they put it down. With our coaching programs, which was so life-changing for me, was that it kind of kept you on track. And it was like being in school in a weird way, where you had to make sure the assignments were done, make sure you were changing. But as you notice changes in your life, you were so motivated to, keep going. And it was really about implementing those changes and not just gathering the information. That's what changed everything for me.
Mm-hmm. Mentorship, a mentor can see your blind spots as well. Mm-hmm. And the paradigm, and I'm so glad that you mentioned the word accountability, because the paradigm doesn't want you to change. The paradigm, it wants you to stay safe and comfortable and doing what you did yesterday as long as you were safe. Uh-huh. And so many clients that I talk to say, I need the accountability. Like, I've got to have that person to connect with and that group of individuals that are moving themselves forward, because the paradigm, again, it doesn't want you to make these big changes, especially if we're talking about changing your annual income into your monthly income. Right, that voice comes in and starts talking to you, right? Like, how am I going to do that? Like, that's impossible. You're not good enough to do that. That's the paradigm. That's what we're here to change. We are limitless. Like, it is unlimited what we can do. We are so powerful, so strong. It's just having the tools, having the mindset, which I love. DP's training is jumping into my mind. Like, he gave so many amazing tools and processes this morning. That's why I'm going to be going back and re-listening and taking notes. I mean, these things we do, but just great reminders. That's why I'm suggesting go back in and, of course, be listening to those replays. But the paradigm, it doesn't want you to change. It wants you to stay where you're at. We have to set a big goal, something that makes us, so uncomfortable and so excited at the same time. And then to have the tools and processes, be using the visualization, have, strong auto suggestion. Like DP said, he's auto suggesting all throughout the day, to have that environment of people that you're surrounding yourself with. So important.
Oh, no, it absolutely is. That's why they always say, the sum of 5 people that you hang out with is what your life's going to be. So choose wisely. But no, it's fair. And it's interesting that you said, like, the paradigm doesn't want you to change. Yeah, it's used to, people inherently don't like to change. They are used to their patterns, the repeated behaviors. They think that's what it is. But, if you want new results, you have to change. You can't accomplish huge goals that scare you if you're operating on an old operating system. That's what I noticed for me, at least. Like, I had to change everything to get the results I have.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Like, how your mind, your paradigm really shifts who you are. I mean, Bob, his brilliant lesson, his timeless lesson this morning, all about the paradigm. Let's have you go a little bit deeper into that, like how it really shapes who you are.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, as Bob says, it's like your behaviors and your subconscious beliefs that kind of operate everything you're doing, the decisions you make, whether you go to the gym, whether you eat healthy, what your income. It really is like everything. And sometimes you have to tell people, like, if you look at your life and you don't like your results, you've got to look at your thinking, because your thinking, your paradigm is controlling everything. And so for me, when I was able to shift my paradigm, it's almost like I took off these glasses, like I was like living in a fog, and then I removed the glasses and I saw opportunity I never would have seen, like things that propelled me towards where I am today. 7 years ago, I would have said, that's absolutely not possible. Like, that's not my thing. But when you take those glasses off, because you change that paradigm, it's like all these opportunities that you never saw coming just start to come, and you start feeling like better about yourself and being confident, and you start believing in yourself. And that's the biggest thing. I had so many people around me that believed in me back in the day, but I didn't believe in myself. My paradigm was so stuck in self-doubt. And it wasn't until I started believing in myself finally that everything changed. And so the paradigm is just so critical to reaching those goals.
Right.
They always have a goal that scares you. They always say your goal isn't big enough if it doesn't scare you a little bit.
Right, right. So that's interesting what you just said. I mean, we're talking about having the big goal, and you must have the goal to be focused on. And then also the paradigm has to shift, right? Like if the paradigm is not going to shift, then you'll stay attracting the same that you've been attracting. So wouldn't you say it's crucial, it's critical, like you've got to have that goal and big and beautiful, have that vision, your purpose, which is the foundation. But then like you've got to go into mode of shifting and changing the paradigm in order to reach that goal.
Yeah, because obviously the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting different results. So we don't want to have that going on. But yeah, it is. It's how you think about things, how you think about yourself, how you think about your income. If like for me, I was stuck on this scarcity. There was never going to be enough. And that's exactly what was showing up. You always had enough to get by, but never enough to get you into that abundant mindset. Until you start changing your beliefs around everything, money, your value, your purpose, like what you do. And you realize that it's just, as Bob said earlier, like it's an abundance is our birthright. And that's what, there's abundance of everything everywhere. And we just have to step into it, like through our mindset and our thinking, AKA our paradigm.
A lot of what you've just said, it really revolves, what I'm hearing is around the self-image. One of my absolute favorite topics, because years ago when I set everything else down, all my study, and just focused on my self-image, I took off like a rocket. And Bob actually said a few weeks after I did this, like, what is Melissa doing? Like, there's a change in her. I've seen it. I can see it in her results. Like, what is she doing? And it was just the self-image. And that's what I'm hearing you talk about now, which, we talk about the self-image in every live event that we do, like here online. And when we were live in person, always talking about the self-image. What do you do, Madison, to shift and change your self-image?
Well, I like to eat a healthy diet, and I like to go to the gym. I think that's very important, not only for your physical fitness, for also your mental fitness. I'll do affirmations as well if I'm just feeling a little like down. We're still human. We're not going to be perfect. There's up and down emotions that we feel, but it's just recognizing them and being able to get out of it. And also, I think it's important to get dressed every day with this whole work at home environment that a lot of us are living in. Sometimes we don't fully get dressed and we don't necessarily feel great about ourselves. And you and I have talked offline where when you were doing your self-image, which I loved, you went through your closet and completely got rid of all your stuff and started dressing like this new person that you wanted to be. And I said, oh my gosh, what a great idea. That's the one thing I haven't thought about. But self-care is extremely important. If you're somebody who just, you're self-conscious about something and you can fix it, fix it. Why not? because, if you're feeling good about yourself, you can accomplish everything. And that's part of that, just that self-image is really just taking care of yourself, even if it's just a facial or some Botox or going to the dentist, whatever it is for you. Get it done.
I have a quick story about Bob. We were doing a training in Scottsdale in Arizona. This was years ago. And I know Gina was there and I know DP was there. We sat down and we did some sales meetings with Bob. And, we talk numbers when we sit down and have these meetings. So I was like a little bit nervous, going to sit down one-on-one with Bob Proctor. And the first thing he said to me, we sat down, got comfortable, and he goes, Melissa, tell me what good things you do for yourself every single week. That's how we started our meeting. He wanted to know. And I told him all the things I love to do. And I love to go, get massages and get my nails done. And he said, you make sure every single week you're doing something great for yourself like that. You've got to take care of yourself. And you just mentioned self-care. And when you said that, it just popped into my mind. Bob did loud and clear. And I still do that now, of course. Like, I know it's a huge part of me feeling good about myself and knowing I am worth it. I am worth it to take that time out and go do these good things for myself. I feel fantastic about myself, but I take good care.
Yeah, it's so important. I think we just get so busy and wrapped up in things that we forget to do that. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, why do we feel so not ourselves and we don't feel good? Well, you've got to, I love that Bob said that to you though, because I think it is so important, but I like that he said every day?
He said every week, make sure you're doing something. I mean, I do good things for myself every day, but taking the time out and go doing something special for myself, I still do that. Now, we did talk numbers, after we talked about self-care, but the self-care, it's huge. And again, I still practice that every week. And you mentioned cleaning out the closet. And I'll tell you, that is something I love doing, because every time, like, I'm picturing myself a little bit different with achieving my goal, then like my wardrobe has got to change. So I do a lot of cleaning in my closet, and I do love shopping. Now, if you're hearing this for the first time and thinking like, I'd love to go through my closet, like, go in and just pick out the things that are maybe really old or they've been washed 100 times. Like, start there. We want to start somewhere. And that's what I did years ago. Like, I got rid of the things that I was super comfortable wearing, that I wore so much that just kind of made me feel ordinary. I wanted to make sure every day I was feeling extraordinary and at my best. And I know, like you mentioned, when you just do your hair a little different way or wear something that makes you feel good. And Bob did always say the fastest way to shift and change your self-image is by changing how you dress. That is absolutely the quickest way to change your self-image. So I've remembered that.
Okay, so that's my reminder to go shopping more. No, but I love skincare. That's like my big thing. So, I think it's whatever makes you feel good is so important. But I do love the dressing part, because it's like, it's almost like not dress for success, dress for the job you want, right? Dress for the life you want, the life you want to step into. I mean, you can't be in sweatpants and raggy old t-shirts if you're trying to make, 7+ figures a year or a month. You've got to start dressing and looking that part, and also feeling that part, and talking as that person, walking as that person, like really stepping into that new version of you in order to manifest it. That was critical for me. And it was hard at first, but you just keep it up, and it just, you keep repeating it, and the patterns become habits.
Repetition is key. That's right. You can't just do it one time and think everything's going to change. It's the repetition. And I love what you just said about that feeling, because we know, like, thinking is part of it, of course. It's the feeling that brings it back. I always think it's the thought that puts it out there. It's the feeling that brings it back. And that's really important that you mention that, because it's how we're feeling that is going to bring it back around to us.
Yeah. Law of vibration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bob brought up, I mean, he was talking about the mental faculties today, and I love whenever he mentions those mental faculties, because these are our superpowers. These are our gifts. Now, most people don't know what they are. And if you know what they are, like, have you developed them? Are you strengthening those mental faculties? And they are crucial to our success. And, I would love to go deeper a little bit with you. I know you and I have talked about perception. Let's have you go a little deeper, into perception.
Yeah, well, I mean, perception is obviously like how you kind of see things, how you perceive things. And it's amazing. I always love those memes that you see like on social media that pop up where it's got two different people and they're looking at the same thing. And one's like, the end of the world is coming. The other one's like, this is so beautiful. But it's so true. Like how you choose to see the world is how you're going to experience it. You could always see the negative in something, or you could choose to see the positive. So, and also recognizing that your perception is going to be different from other people's. So it's important to be clear on like, okay, if I don't like what I'm seeing, maybe I should change my perception on it. And not assume, it kind of, sometimes we assume things and it kind of skews our perception, but seeing things in a more positive kind of abundant light. And one of my favorite quotes is always, life is happening for you, not to you. And that's right. The perception of seeing your life benefiting you and the universe working in your favor versus being to you is more of the victim mentality, which is a negative perception. Mm-hmm.
So good. So good, Madison. So as we're wrapping up here, let me ask you, like, what advice would you give, people listening? They've got a chance to hear DP, Bob, a fantastic, again, just such an impactful lesson. Like, what would you like to leave people with today that are listening to the training? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say that your past doesn't dictate your future. I think that's so important to drive that home, that every day is a new day, that you can actually change your life. You're not your circumstances. Your circumstances could absolutely change. And once you make a commitment to change that paradigm and change your life, it's like a rebirth, and you can do it at any time. You're never too young and you're never too old. If you want it bad enough, make it happen.
My recommendation, I love that, Madison. That is fantastic. And one of my favorite lessons from Bob, and you just said, you have to be committed. You have to make a decision. And I can look back and see, as I've made decisions, like how the dots connect and how I needed to make that decision and get really uncomfortable. And like, this is what I'm going to do no matter what. And then start moving, even though the paradigm was, screaming at me. There were times, I remember when, and this was several years ago, when my husband and I were buying our house that we're in now. And I was talking to Bob, and he had said, he wanted to know what my goal was, and it was a new house. And we were talking about houses in the area that I live in here in Denver, Colorado. And I said, Bob, like the houses I'm looking at, we'd have to rip up like more than half of the house. Like, it's not what I want. And of course, not willing to settle. And, he was just like, go buy the house. And I'm like, well, there really is not one right here, right now that I want. And it took a very short amount of time from him telling me, buy the house. I've got a sticker on my computer that I still have when he sent me a text message that said, buy the house. I decided. Now, we didn't have everything put together that we needed, and we decided to build, and we found the lot that we wanted. And a lot of people were after the lot, but, here we are today. It wasn't until that decision was made, and of course, that jumps you up onto higher frequencies. The inspired idea comes, the money is going to come, the right people, like it all works itself out. you have to have the belief, right? And it all starts with decision and beating out the paradigm, not listening to that voice that wants to say, how are you going to do that, Melissa? And like I said, here we are, but the decision is key. So whether there's something that you want or something like shifting your paradigm, like going into the new year, we're not that far away from the new year, only a little over, 60 days into 2024. Like, make the decision now that things are going to be different for you. Like today, starting today, this isn't something to push off until beginning of January. Like, the goal setting and deciding what you want, like, it starts now. We're end of October. Decide that you're worth it. Decide this is what you're going to do. Have the mentorship piece, really understand this on a deep level, but it all starts with decision. Nothing happens until you make that decision.
And I love it every time you mention New Year's. Like, when people say New Year's, they're like, new year, new me. Well, this could actually be your chance to make that happen.
Today.
New you. Exactly. That's got to set up today what you want to accomplish now in the new year. It starts now. It doesn't start on January 1st when you're hungover. It starts today. And every day. It's like, don't put off today. Don't put off tomorrow what you could do today. And today your whole life could change. You don't need to wait until a new year. But if you do want to have a new year, new you, then I would definitely commit to making those changes now.
Waiting is all in the paradigm. To wait until this happens. I'll wait till that happens.
You'll be waiting forever then.
That's right. If that's what you're putting out there, if that's how you're making decisions, then no wonder why you're living Groundhog's Day, every single day, like you're on autopilot, because that's what you're putting out. The waiting, the universe is going to be waiting to give you back that good that you desire. That's why we have to shift and change the paradigm.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I have a really fun piece of homework for everyone to do for today's homework on day one. I love this homework, you guys. So DP mentioned in his training about spending large amounts of money in your mind. This is so much fun. I mean, this is really going to stretch you. Of course, it has to do with abundance and prosperity. I can't wait to see the posts that come in about, how you're spending your money. So here's what I want all of you to do. And of course, we're going to ask you to tag your success advisor. I want you to post a picture in the event Facebook group about something that you really, really want, right? And the more opulent, the better. Have fun with this. Like, find a picture of something that has you really emotionally involved that you want. And I want you to post it in the event Facebook group and post how it makes you feel now that this goal is done, now that what you want has been received. Like, how does it make you feel? So again, have fun with this. Have fun posting the picture, writing out the feeling. And Madison, I want to thank you today for taking the time out of your schedule and being here. It was great talking with you about, what we learned today from Bob and from DP. Again, I'm going to be going back and taking many notes, but I wanted to thank you for.
Yeah, thank you. It was awesome being here and talking with you about this. So much fun.
Yes. So I want to mention, everyone, we're going to be back tomorrow, day 2. We will be back with DP Gates, our senior vice president, and we are going to be back with a fantastic lesson from Sandy Gallagher. And before I let you go today, I want to mention this because we are working on this now. We have something really special that we are setting up for December, and that is our advanced mindset camp. Now, this is going to be never seen footage from Bob. And we are bringing this in on an amazing training from Bob. We have a lot of special surprises in store, like I say, that we're working on now. And it's all going to be revolving around unlocking the true potential of your mind. So I want to mention that starting on day 3, DP Gates and I are going to be back, and the tickets are going to be available for you to get your early bird pricing for the Advanced Mind Camp, and that is going to be $59.95. I mean, you are going to get so much amazing material. It is going to be a really fun event. Again, it's going to be really something special. So I wanted to mention the Advanced Mindset Camp. Post the homework. We cannot wait to see the pictures coming through the chat, and make sure to tag your success advisor. And I am looking forward to being back here day 2 with DP and an amazing lesson from Sandy. So thank you again, Madison. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
And over to you, Gina. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DP, Melissa, and Madison. DP, we need to catch up, dude. What a great wrap up for day 1. So your assignment for today is you're going to post a picture of something you really, really want, alongside with a description of how it makes you feel now that you've achieved it. It's already done in your mind. We want to see lots of excitement. You have to hold it in your head before it manifests on the physical realm. That's how energy works, from a higher to a lower vibration. Potent stuff. If you're in the Facebook group, I'd like you to tag your success advisor in the post, please. If you don't know who your success advisor is and you're registered for the event, be sure to check your spam, junk, and promotions folder in your email. And if you've done all that and you still don't know who your advisor is, please leave us a comment below that you need a success advisor, and our team will quickly assist you. The replay of today will be available shortly after the end of each day, and you'll access it through the guide section in the Facebook group, along with that day's assignment. But here's the catch. The replays and assignments are only going to be up for a very limited amount of time. All of the replays are coming down on Monday, October 30th at midnight Eastern. So if you miss something or you want to rewatch something, make sure you do it quickly. Now you might be thinking, why don't they leave it up for longer? Well, I'll tell you. Part of our paradigm tells us to do it later. Watch TV, leave it until tomorrow. But we know that to beat the paradigm and live the life we really want, we have to override that blasted paradigm. I know you've probably been referred to as many things over the course of your life, but today and over the rest of your life, you are going to be a paradigm buster. Watch the replay on Facebook over and over again, repetition, fall in love with it. It's the key to success. Bob read Think and Grow Rich every day for over 60 years. So you know there's got to be something really magical in that. In closing, and DP alluded to it earlier when he suggested that you not minimize the simplicity of this. I assure you it's simple, but it's not easy. That said, it is so worth doing. Before we end today, I want to leave you with a poem. I have it sitting on my desk and I absolutely love it. I refer to it almost every day. It's just a constant reminder to me. You know what? I need that page that Danny Proctor printed out for me that I don't have. Oh, I've got it right in front of me. Ah! It's autobiography in 5 short chapters, and it's by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I still don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe that I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault, but it still takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's habit. It's my fault. I know where I am. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. It's autobiography in 5 sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. Isn't that good? Just want to pre-mention that the registration for Advanced Mind Camp will open on day 3. Start thinking about it. Stay tuned, same bat time, same bat channel. Some of you may be old enough to get this reference. If you don't, Google it. Thank you.